is Dominic. Today I'm going to talk about elasticity. Elasticity is the sensitivity of consumers from a change in price. Elasticity itself, it tells us how consumers will respond to a change in price. And in economics, elasticity is related to law of demand. The law of demand states that when price is increasing, then therefore there is a decrease in quantity. The second one is the other way around. When price is decreasing, then we are going to have the quantity demanded will increase. So that is a normal behavior from consumers related to the price that is given in the market. And based on that, they will define the quantity demanded. So elasticity of demand that we will denote by ED is equal to the percentage change of the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price, which means that any change in price will bring about how much of a change in quantity demanded. And we call that elasticity of demand. This formula in here could be also developed. In other words, in order to show, because we're talking about demand itself, we're going to show also what are all the other factors that will affect elasticity of demand. So based on this formula in here, we can denote it as well as the change in quantity divided by a change in price times the price divided by quantity. As you could see in here, we have the proportion related to price and quantity. At the same time, we have also the ratio price over quantity. This is very important in terms of determining elasticity. Why is that? Because P over Q, that gives us the ratio of price over the quantity. That means that if there is any change in price, there might be also change in quantity and other way around as well. All right, so the other part is the change of quantity divided by change in price, which is also, we call that the slope. This slope is the one that is making sense of the elasticity. Now, I would like to draw a graph of elasticity. And elasticity of demand could be elastic, could be inelastic, and could be unit elastic. Now, what do we mean by that? So let's go back to the formula itself. Elasticity of demand is equal to the percentage change of quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So, having that, we will definitely see how sensitive will be consumer based on change in price. So, mathematically speaking, then if you have the percentage change in quantity demanded which is greater than the percentage change in price, that definitely will be greater than 1. And that elasticity of demand is greater than 1, saying that a small change of the price will bring about a larger change in quantity demanded. So that number will be always greater than 1. And we call that elastic demand curve. Now, if we introduce the other one, which is the inelastic, when you talk about inelastic, then also based on the formula itself, so the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. From there, then we could see that the change brought about by a change in price will be greater than the change on the quantity demanded. Therefore, the elasticity of demand will be less than 1. In this one, we see that the consumers is very much is not responding to the change in price. So not sensitive. In here, not sensitive. So this one is inelastic. All right, so those are two types, but there's another type of elasticity of demand, which is called the unit elastic. The unit elastic, when we have the percentage change in quantity demanded, is equal to the percentage change in price. Therefore, we have elasticity of demand is equal to 1. That means the consumers is very much not sensitive and not insensitive. It's just very much normal. Any change in price will bring about the same change in quantity demanded. And as a result of that, elasticity of demand will be equal to 1. Okay, right now I would like to show the graphic illustration of elasticity. We start with number 1. The number 1 is the elastic demand. Elastic demand curve. Okay, the elastic demand curve is related to the demand curve itself as right here, the main graph, and we have the demand curve as that. So what makes it actually elastic? Let's do an application of that. All right, let's assume for now that at this point, at this price, say for example 1, we have an output of 6. And if we increase price to 2, for example, then we have an increase also from 3 to 6. All right? So we have this elastic demand. Let's calculate elasticity of demand. In fact, in order to calculate elasticity of demand, there is one thing that I have to warn students. Usually students will have a hard time when you use this formula, percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Sometimes we have a negative number, or sometimes we have a positive number. In order to avoid that, then we are going to use what is called the midpoint formula. The midpoint formula. Midpoint formula. The midpoint formula states that the elasticity of demand is equal to what? Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q2 minus Q1 divided by 2 divided by P2 minus P1 divided by P2 plus P1 divided by 2. All right. So if we do apply this formula in here, then we can refer ourselves to the previous table that we have talked before, that elasticity of demand is, we are saying that is elastic when ED is greater than 1, and elasticity of demand is inelastic when elasticity of demand is less than 1, and elasticity of demand is unit elastic when ED is equal to 1. And when you do apply this formula, the midpoint formula in here, the result of that must be in absolute value. The absolute value is allowing student to have always a positive number. In order to apply those 3 here, we do not have any negative numbers. All right. And this class is going to be always a positive number, which is greater than 0. So if you apply, based on this formula in here, we apply this elastic calculation of elasticity on this demand curve in here, then let's see what we're going to have. Elasticity will be equal to what? Q2 minus Q1. That means, let's assume that this is A, this is point B in here. So Q2 minus Q1 on the Q, or the horizontal axis, we have the quantity. On the vertical axis, we have the price itself. So then we start with the output. So that means 6 minus 3 divided by 6 plus 3 divided by 2 divided by 2 minus 1 divided by 2 plus 1 divided by 2. All right, so what do we have here? So we have on the numerator, we have 3, 9 divided by 2, that's 4.5. And on the bottom, we have 1 divided by 3 divided by 2, 1.5. And definitely, if you do the calculation of that, we refer ourselves over here. Then we have 3 over 4.5 times 1.5 over 1, that we have 4.5 divided by 4.5. In fact, we have somehow a unit elastic, so that means 1 and 2. So that in this case in here, we have a unit elastic demand curve, because this will be equal to 1. That means that based on this graph in here and the numbers that I've chosen myself, so the change in the price will be equal to change in quantity demanded. So this is an example of unit elastic demand. All right, that means the change in quantity demanded will be equal to the change in price. All right, let's do a second example. Let's take an example of a demand curve. This time I'm going to draw it a little bit properly, so it's easier for you to follow what I'm talking about right here. The vertical axis is the price, the horizontal axis is the quantity itself. Let's take some coordinates in here, and let's take the first one is from price of 3 and 1, and quantity of, say in here, 1 and 7. All right? So if you apply again this midpoint formula in here, then let's apply it right away. So elasticity of demand will be equal to Q2 minus Q1, 7 minus 1 divided by 7 plus 1 divided by 2 divided by P2 minus P1. That is, no matter what is the order that you have in terms of quantity and the price itself, because it's going to be an absolute value by the end of the day. So you can have also 3 minus 1 as a price divided by 3 plus 1 divided by 2. And that will give us about 6 divided by 4. This one is 2 divided by 2. And that is equal to, this one is 2/3, 3.5. And we have in here 1. So we have it equal to 3.5, which is a positive number. And that is also greater than 1. So we have an elastic demand. Elastic demand means, if you go back to from the beginning of today's topic, is in this case, as you could see, that right in here on top we have the quantity demanded, change in quantity demanded is greater than the quantity, than the price change itself. So we have elastic demand is greater than 1, and that is elastic. All right, let's do a third one. Another example of this, an application of this as well. Let's take also another demand curve, which is a little bit, let's make it really inelastic. For, as a reminder, the curve of the demand curve itself is dictated by the slope, which is given by the calculation of the elasticity itself. So let's take a look at this one in here. If you take point in here and in here, and then if you assume this one is 2, this one is 3, this one is 1, and this one is 6. As you could see, those are really a big gap between those parts in here. So what we have in here indeed is that elasticity of demand will be equal to, let's apply again our midpoint formula in here. We have then the change in quantity, 3 minus 2 divided by 3 plus 2 divided by 2 divided by the change in price itself. Then we have 6 minus 1 divided by 6 plus 1 divided by 2. And therefore, we have 1 over 5 divided by 2. That is a 2.5. And this is 5 divided by 7 divided by 2, 3.5. And therefore, we have 1 over 2.5 times 3.5 divided by 5. I don't know if you could see that, but it's equal to 3.5 divided by 5 times 5, 12.5. And 3.5 divided by 12.5, that is a number that is less than 1. Therefore, we have a inelastic demand. This means that no matter what a change in price will be, demand will change just a little bit. That means the consumer is very much insensitive to change in price. And that is inelastic demand. Now, I would like to give some examples, Indonesian examples. Let's say, for example, for elastic demand. For elastic demand, that means that a change in price does definitely affect very much the quantity demanded. Assuming that if there is an increase in price, based on the law of demand, the quantity must be decreasing. So what could be the example for that? Example, we have a t-shirt, for example. T-shirt, for example. What else you can have? Beverage, for example. Others, drink, for example. What else you have in here? Hats, for example. Pens, for example. There are a lot of examples on that one, which means that if you talk about this in a later session of this elasticity, the more a good has a substitute, the more it is elastic. So then we talk about elasticity, about substitute. The more substitute, and then the more elastic the demand curve will be. Example for inelastic example, then we may have something is very much inelastic. Say, for example, cigarettes. Cigarettes or medicine, those are very much inelastic. No matter how much will be the price of cigarettes, smokers, they will buy cigarettes. No matter how much will be the price of medicine, if you want to be healthy, then you definitely will have also to buy the medicine that is given by your doctor. So in this case in here, you have less substitute. You have less substitute. You have no choice. As opposed to the elastic, you have a lot of choices. Now, what is actually, why elasticity is that a big of a deal? Why elasticity a big deal? Elasticity is a big deal because sometimes it isn't happening that there is lots of extreme cases. Extreme cases, let's say, for example, we have the perfectly elastic demand. In a perfectly elastic demand, then we have the demand itself that is very much horizontal. That means a small change in the price, you'll have a drastic change in the quantity demanded. Example in here, if you decrease the price by a bit, most of the goods will be purchased by consumers. If you increase the price by a bit, then consumers will not buy not even one. We call this a perfectly elastic demand. Another extreme case will be also what you call that the perfectly inelastic demand. I'm sorry for my write-up. My writing has never been good, but that is, look at the graph that we have in here. We have a perfectly inelastic demand where the demand curve is a vertical line. In here, what does it mean? Any change in price doesn't affect quantity demanded. There is no effect on the quantity demanded. That means that in this case, elasticity of demand will be equal to 0. Whereas in a perfectly elastic demand will be equal to infinity. All right. Now I relate it in relation also to elasticity. One of the biggest important part of elasticity is total revenue. That's one of the reasons we always talk about elasticity, because it affects business. It affects behavior of consumers. So let's write back one more time elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand is the percentage change of quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. All right, or it's equal to the change in quantity divided by change in price times price divided by quantity. Right. So from there, let's take a look at what is total revenue. Total revenue matters a lot. So let's take a look. Total revenue is equal to price times quantity. All right. If you look at that and we see the variables on the right-hand side, they're totally similar to the variables that are used in elasticity itself. We have price, we have quantity, right? We have the change in price and change in quantity in here, and then we also have the price and quantity. As I told you before, that this entity in here, that represents the slope of the demand curve. And that slope of the demand curve does really matter in terms of total revenue. That means that the demand itself, which is based on the consumers, will affect the total revenue on a given good. All right? So let's take a look. Let's just do an example on this one. Let's do an example. So just to make my what I'm talking about is what I want you to understand. Let's take a look at the first example when we have elastic demand. Elastic demand, then it's pretty much that one. And the curvature of this demand curve is based on this slope in here. The slope will give us this curvature of the demand curve. So let's give some numbers on this one. Let's take a look if we can come up with some good example. This is a 1 in here. We say 6 in here. We have in here 1 and 2. All right? And let's give for a better calculation. This is an A, and let's give this a point B. And let's just assume that price increased from 1 to 2. All right. So if that's the case, we can start first to prove that this is elastic, or we can prove that later. So let's just calculate total revenue. Just what happened to total revenue at point A. Total revenue at point A is P times Q. So at point A, the P will be equal to 1 times Q Q is equal to 6, and that's total revenue is equal to 6. Total revenue at point P will be equal to what? That is a P is equal to 1, and quantity is equal to, point B, price is equal to 2, and quantity is equal to 1, and that is equal to 2. Okay, so what is our conclusion from here? When you increase your price from 1 to 2, then it seems that total revenue is decreasing from 6 to 2. And that is also related to the law of demand, which means when you increase the price, therefore quantity demanded is decreasing, and that is there. So this case in here, it has to be elastic. So let's prove that this is elastic. Elasticity of demand will be equal to change in quantity first, 6 minus 1 divided by 6 plus 1 divided by 2, divided by 2 minus 1 divided by 2 plus 1 divided by 2, and that is equal to 5 divided by 3.5, and that is divided by 1 divided by 3, 1.5, and that is also equal to 5 times 1.5 divided by 3.5. And if you look at this number in here, then you actually can deduct that the elasticity of demand is greater than 1. All right? So that is elastic. So, conclusion. When the demand is elastic demand, when we increase the price, therefore total revenue will decrease. And that is a fundamental understanding of elasticity. So when demand is elastic, when you increase the price, total revenue will decrease. We can also prove the other way around, that when you decrease the price, the quantity, the total revenue will increase. And that's also true. So also when we decrease the price, then we're going to have a total revenue will increase. As you could see in here, when we decrease the price from 2 to 1, there will be an increase in quantity demanded from 1 to 6. That means they are buying more. So when they buy more, you make more revenue. All right? So that is also proven right here. So when there is elastic demand, any change in price, you have the opposite direction. You increase your price, you decrease total revenue. So you have a business, and you know that the business people are very much sensitive to change in price in the goods that you're selling. If you increase your price, you will sell less. But if you decrease your price, you will sell more and you will make money, more money. However, you have to make sure that when you decrease your price, all competitors will also decrease your price. So you may lose money. And that is for another topic. So for now, let's take a look for an example. And that will be the next one is when we have inelastic demand. We can calculate the total revenue. Now let's take a look at the example of the total revenue when demand is inelastic. All right. So let's start from to draw the demand itself. So we have a price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis, and we have the demand curve, which is supposed to be inelastic. All right. So let's start a point those two coordinates. We will take first one is A over here and B over here. We have 1 and we have 5. Price is equal to 1, quantity equal to 5, price equal to 9, and we have quantity equal to 4. All right. So first of all, let's calculate total revenue when price is equal to at the point A. Let's make it simple, point A. So at point A, what we have in here, P is equal to 1 times 5, that's equal to 5. Total revenue at the point B is equal to P is equal to 9, and then times quantity equal to 4, that is 36. And if we assume that price increases from 1 to 9, then what we have in here? So what we have in here, price increasing from 1 to 9, as you could see here. So then quantity, total revenue is also increasing. So before we conclude on that, let's demonstrate first that this demand curve in here is in fact inelastic, meaning that total revenue itself will mostly depend on the slope of this demand curve. So let's calculate the elasticity of demand. In this case, we have a change in quantity 5 minus 4 divided by 5 plus 4 divided by 2 divided by 9 minus 1 divided by 9 plus 1 divided by 2, and that gives us 1 over 4.5 divided by 8 divided by 5, and that will be equal to 5 divided by 8 times 4.5. And that is absolute value of that will be 5 divided by 36. And this number in here, 5 over 36, is less than 1. And that says that this is definitely inelastic demand. So what our summary or finding tells us. So with an inelastic demand, when when price increases, then total revenue will also increase. They have no choice but to buy, even though it is too expensive. But when a price is decreased, then our total revenue will also decrease. They will buy the same amount, almost the same amount, at a cheaper price. So then, when you have a business which is good is inelastic, if you have the business, do not decrease the price. But if you increase the price too much, then you could also be rewarded with a higher total revenue as long as there is no substitute for the goods. All right, and that's wrap up the total revenue related to elasticity of demand. In the last phase of this topic, I would like to explain about the elasticity of supply. Elasticity of supply shows us the sensitivity of sellers from a change in price. Shows the sensitivity of sellers from change in price. Definitely, there will be some sellers that are very sensitive from a change in price, some sellers that are not really sensitive toward change in price, and there's some sellers that are not that's equally sensitive toward a change in price. All right, let's the calculation of elasticity of supply is also pretty much similar to the calculation of elasticity of demand, which is the only thing that is changing is the quantity supplied rather than quantity demanded. So that is the percentage change in quantity supplied divided by a percentage change in price, or it's equal to the change in quantity supply divided by change in price times price divided by quantity supply. All right. So we said again that this will show the slope of the supply curve. All right. But for an easy approach for the students, when it comes for you to actually to solve a problem related to supply of elasticity of supply, then you have also the choice of using the midpoint of elasticity supply calculation, which is quantity 2 minus quantity 1 divided by quantity 2 plus quantity 1 divided by 2, price P2 minus P1, which stands for prices, and P2 plus P1 divided by 2, and this must be in absolute value. All right. From there, we also need to talk about the elasticity. Either that will be elastic supply or inelastic supply, or unit elastic supply. If the elasticity of supply is greater than 1, then we have elastic supply. That is number 1. Number 2, if you find that your elastic supply is less than 1, then that is an inelastic supply. Number 3, it is when you have elastic supply is equal to 1, then you have a unit elastic. Okay. All the calculation interpretation will be just shifted from a consumer to suppliers, to firm, to businessmen, to middlemen. And one thing that needs to be discussing here is what are the factors that actually affect elasticity of supply. Number 1 will be the time. Number 2 is flexibility. How does it come up in play, those two? Time, meaning that time will be divided in 3. Number 1 is we have immediate. Allow me to erase this for now. In terms of time, we have immediate. That means right away. Next one is short run. And the last one is a long run. In terms of time, it's related also to flexibility. Flexibility means that how does a seller respond to an immediate change in price of a resource? If the supplier or the businessman or the firm is not flexible enough with a change in price which is immediate, so that means it's going to be inelastic. The firm doesn't have flexibility to react to a change in price immediately. So the firm is inelastic. In the short run, how does a firm react to a change in price in a short run? Let's say, for example, a change of machines into labor. It doesn't really take so much, but in a short run, it's possible. It's possible, but not totally possible. Only 2 are flexible. The rest are very much constrained. So in this case, we have inelastic, also relatively inelastic or relatively elastic. So let's put it in relatively elastic. Not that elastic, but still a little bit of elastic. It does have a room to change from machine to labor or from labor to machine. In the immediate, it doesn't have any change, no chance at all to change anything. It has to do whatever happened in there. No choice for the supplier. If price is increasing, they have to pay for that to produce the goods. All right. But in the long run, a firm has the chance to change anything, including all resources. If they don't want some of the resources, they can change it. So they're very much elastic. If they don't like it, they don't have to do it. If they like it, they can pay more of it. All right. If they like it, they pay less of it. So it's all up to them. That means in the long run, all firms are elastic because they are very much flexible. Flexible in terms of resources. They can change all the resources. If it is too expensive, they will change, look for alternatives which are more affordable to them. In the medium term or short run, they have a choice, but only between two. So that is a limited choice. That's why they are relatively elastic. But if they have to act right away, they have no choice. They are very much inelastic. They will incur a lot of cost. They have no choice to shift to other resources. And that's pretty much about all the things that you need to know about elasticity. We have covered the elasticity of demand. Those are elastic, inelastic, and unit elastic of demand. Besides that, we also talk about the total revenue related to elasticity. As price increase the price, if it is elastic, then total revenue decrease. As you decrease the price, total revenue increase. If it is inelastic demand, if you increase the price, total revenue also increases. If you decrease the price, total revenue also decreases. Now, in terms of elasticity of supply, where it's related mostly to firm, to businesses, middlemen, wherever you have something, some businesses providing goods, manufacturing goods, and so on and so forth, they are mostly also related, affected by sensitivity in terms of price of resources. As we say that if the elasticity of supply is greater than 1, it's going to be elastic. If it is less than 1, it is inelastic. If it is equal to 1, it is unit elastic. The main factors that will affect elasticity demand, elasticity supply are time and flexibility. The less flexible the firm is, the less elastic it becomes. And the more flexible the firm is, the more elastic it becomes. And that's wrap up the chapter about elasticity. And thank you.